Just a matter of time, and as time goes by, more and more information coming out about these wildfires in California and what these incompetent, arrogant ideologues have done to the state and the people of the state. Bombshell: Key Reservoir was empty when Palisades fire started, contributed a loss of homes and life. This is Red State. Jennifer Van Laar. When 3 1-million-gallon capacity water storage tanks in Pacific Palisades went dry Tuesday night, firefighters were forced to abandon efforts to save thousands of homes. L.A. Department of Water and Power, LADWP CEO Janice Quinones has repeatedly claimed during press conferences that her utility did everything it could to prepare for the forecasted wind event and support the Los Angeles Fire Department as it responded, but left out one key fact. The Santa Ynez Reservoir in the hills above Pacific Palisades, which holds 117 million gallons of water and normally feeds those tanks, had been drained and taken offline for repairs to its cover, even though the state's brush fire season was ongoing. LAPD watchdog cite the Santa Ynez Reservoir, which holds the 117 million. This reckless decision to take the reservoir offline left firefighters without sufficient water, severely hindered their efforts. And they lie about it. They lied about it. The Los Angeles Times followed up on the LFD watchdog's post, and that's where it came from, and confirmed officials that the reservoir had been drained for repairs. You don't repair the reservoir in the height of wildfire season, now do you? The outlets also spoke to a former WPP general manager, Martin Adams, who said if the reservoir had been online, it would have extended water pressure. He said you still would have ended up with serious drops in pressure. But would Santa Ynez Reservoir have helped? Yes. To some extent, it would have saved the day. He said, I don't think so. Well, it would have saved a lot of houses. That we do think so and know so. Officials haven't said how long this reservoir had been offline. But it had been empty for a while due to a tear in the cover. Now, Quinones had blamed the inability to refill the tanks on excessive demand and fire conditions, preventing crews from rerouting water to refill one tank. Adams told the LA Times if the reservoir had been online, the demand might have been 3 times as high, but it wouldn't have fully prevented the disaster. I love these lines. Wouldn't have fully prevented the disaster, but it could have helped ameliorate the problem. That's for sure. That's for sure. Just unbelievable. Quinones came to the L.A. Water Department in May 2024, months ago, from another beleaguered utility, Northern California's Pacific Gas and Electric, replacing Adams. While Adams was paid $435,000 a year, Quinones was hired in at a salary of $750,000. Are these government salaries, Mr. Producer? Holy mackerel. At the time, L.A. City Council President Paul Krikorian said this council will be considering many important appointments that the mayor will be making, but very few will be as consequential as this one. Responding to criticism of the huge salary, council member Kevin De Leon, he's a radical left-wing kook, said they needed to offer a competitive salary to attract top talent. $750,000. And by the way, that doesn't include bonuses and pensions and medical benefits and God knows what else. And a fine job they've done, haven't they? Taxpayers of California screwed left and right. Has anybody heard from Schwarzenegger lately, Mr. Environment? Anybody heard from him lately, Mr. Climate Change? Does he take responsibility for any of this over the years? I'm just curious. Are we supposed to pretend he doesn't exist? Or do we pretend that he doesn't exist? But he is oddly quiet. Oddly quiet. But there's more. Gavin Newsom. Daily Mail. Gavin Newsom cut fire budget by $100 million last year while giving more water to tiny tribal fish. It's exactly the sort of thing Donald Trump's been talking about. And they say, oh, this is disinformation. No, these are facts. Newsom is coming under fire for slashing California's funding for wildlife and forest resiliency by $101 million less than a year before devastating fires tore through L.A. Boy. The Democrat signed the budget cuts into law in June 2024, severing funding from 7 programs focused on preventing and battling potential wildfires in the state, reports Newsweek. Cuts included a $5 million decrease to the CAL FIRE fuel reduction teams, which included funding to pay for vegetation management work for the California National Guard. The total for the program was stripped of $129 million, amid claims that the state failed to clear brush and forestry that may have accelerated the flames. Newsom's budget cuts also slashed $4 million from a forest legacy program intended to promote management practices for landowners. It's unbelievable. $28 million from funding for such conservancies, they write, aimed at increasing wildfire resistance. Further $8 million was cut from monitoring and research programs that reportedly largely went to CAL FIRE. $3 million from an interagency forest data hub. Does this sound like the governor was doing all he could to deal with wildfires? No, I don't think so. Comes as Newsom has come under scrutiny. This guy isn't presidential material. He's not gubernatorial material. Trump's call for Newsom to resign comes as the president-elect pointed to Newsom's focus on Delta smelt, a 3-inch fish native to Sacramento's San Joaquin River Delta in California. The water system used by the state to fight the wildfires that have so far burned over 10,000 buildings and killed at least 10 people, far more than that, struggled and in some places failed under the strain. So they didn't put the money where they needed to. They made absolutely ridiculous decisions on that one massive reservoir. They didn't do what they needed to do. The mayor of L.A. goes off to Ghana as part of a team that is invited to go there by the Biden regime. The demand for water was so high that it wasn't enough to refill the tanks in hilly Pacific Palisades, but we also know now that it was drained of 117 million gallons of water for repair activity. I think a lot more is going to come out over time, don't you, Mr. Producer? Now look at this one as we pull them together. Leaked memo reveals L.A. Mayor Karen Bass demanded her fire department cut an extra $49 billion just 1 week before the wildfires broke out, writes the Daily Mail. Notice most of these stories are not being broken by our TV networks, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the other phony media. Notice that? L.A. Mayor Bass demanded her fire department make an extra $49 million of budget cuts last week, a leaked memo revealed. Last week. The extra cuts requested just days. By the way, that was on top of the $17.6 million that she already cut. And those extra cuts requested just days before fires broke out and devastated swaths of L.A. would have shut down 16 fire stations and crippled the department's ability to respond to emergencies, period. Daily Mail interviewed current and former senior LAFD officers, briefed on the shocking proposed cuts, and exclusively obtained the memo from an LA Fire Department whistleblower who posts on social media under the moniker LAFD Watchdog. The memo is dated January 6, only a day before the devastating Palisades fire started. According to the sources, it was sent from LAFD's top brass at City Hall to division chiefs and captains after a fraught meeting the previous Friday between Chief Kristen Crowley and Mayor Bass. Wow. The document said the only way to provide a cost savings would be to close as many as 16 fire stations. This equates to at least one fire station per city council district. It's incredible. Now more than 54 square miles are scorched in at least 5 separate fires, more than 4,000 homes and buildings destroyed, at least 10 people dead, many more injured. It's incredible. Some senior firefighters' blood was already boiling when they received a note from their bosses about proposed budget slashes. They didn't want this out. It's an internal memo not to be distributed, one currently serving 25-year veteran of the fire department told the Daily Mail. Comes from top brass downtown, City Hall. They're trying to allocate more money for the homeless, and they need to start taking from everyone, rather. But we already exhausted our budget. It's already tapped. That's why they cut the fire academy in half, so they could save more money. That's why we're not testing if hydrants work anymore. We're doing everything we can to save money. They're not testing if hydrants can work. They're draining a massive reservoir. They're redistributing money to illegals and homeless. Take it out of the fire budget. He goes on, we have fire engines we can't get parts for. When one breaks down, we strip it of parts to put on other fire engines because we can't buy any more parts. If you shut down 16 stations, that's about 750 personnel. Then they expect us to take the same call volume. Yesterday, we did 3,800 calls, almost twice of what our daily volume usually is. We're already shy 200 paramedics. We're on the verge of another 200 quitting because we cannot do this anymore. If we don't work overtime, they suspend and threaten to terminate us. It's untenable. No, it's climate change, says the jackass Marxist Bernie Sanders. Sources briefed on the Bass memo first made the demand for tens of millions from cash-strapped department in a meeting with Chief Crowley. She wanted to cut even more, one source said. They asked for $49 million more on Friday. The chief said, we don't have it. The mayor said, find it. Find it. Well, they found it, I guess. In the ashes, Palisades and other communities throughout California. So this is what's been going on. Now ask yourself this, federal taxpayers. Ask yourself this. Where did the trillions and trillions of dollars go, which has caused massive inflation in this country? Where did it go to fight climate change? What was it used for? Trillions of your dollars, massive debt, massive inflation, to fight this very thing. And they're slashing budgets. Where did the money go? Went into the pockets of favored billionaires and millionaires, and went into the pockets of radical left-wing front organizations. It went into the pockets of people who are creating new companies that go absolutely nowhere with your money. How many times have we seen that? There needs to be a full, not investigation, criminal investigation of what happened to this so-called inflation reduction money, a.k.a. climate change money. What happened? Criminal investigation into what took place here in California. Criminal. They should put together a huge task force, bring experts in, and I'm not kidding, and get to the bottom of this. This is a massive scam that has resulted in the death of God knows how many. Massive destruction. There needs to be a full-scale criminal investigation into the Inflation Reduction Act monies, who benefited from it, and into the use of monies. We can start with California, given the devastation that's occurred there. It looks like somebody dropped an atomic bomb.